And joining us now is Jen Psaki, who is, of course, host of Inside with Jen Psaki here on MSNBC at noon Sunday and 8 p.m. Monday night, and former press secretary to President Biden. And Jen's fascinating new book, Say More, Lessons from Work, the White House, and the World, is out now. And Jen, I want to talk to you about the book and about your lessons. I just want to start off with the campaign just today, fighting over Wisconsin. Of course, Milwaukee is going to be the scene of the Republican National Convention. Both campaigns needing it. The president trying to show the benefits of the infrastructure. The Infrastructure Act, right? The Inflation Reduction Act. How does this? It's so close, this campaign.
Yeah.
What benefit does the president have when all the newscasts are just filled with Stormy Daniels and whatever is happening to Donald Trump?
Well, what the president can do is he can show up in communities like Wisconsin. And as you said, I mean, the margin of victory in Wisconsin was less than 1%, not just in 2020, but also in 2016. So it is always going to be a key state. It is always, for now at least, that President Biden is going to campaign in. I expect when he has time, when he's not in the courtroom, former President Trump will also go there because it is so key for the November election.
So let's jump into the campaign experiences that you recount in your terrific new book, Say More. You worked for Barack Obama, Joe Biden, John Kerry at the State Department. Give me some examples of the big differences in briefing those political figures and how it affected you as a young woman, learning your way through the political vineyards of male-dominated industry.
Yeah, no question. I mean, Andrew, what I learned over the course of time, and this book is really about lessons and things I wish I would have known when I was in my 20s. It's for my daughter. It's for my mom. It's for a lot of people in my life. But what I talk about in there is the difference between providing feedback to different types of bosses. I use examples from my own experience, as you mentioned. Now, with Barack Obama, he is such a larger-than-life figure. It took me some time, years, to figure out how to feel confident enough to provide him direct feedback. He's not a person who loves being prepped for things, so you really have to come with your elevator pitch for him. I learned with John Kerry that the man has Purple Hearts. He fought in the Vietnam War. He can take tough feedback, and you need to give him tough feedback. And I did that. And we traveled a lot around the world together, Andrea, you and I. I did that a lot when I was working for him as the spokesperson at the State Department. I tell a very specific story about the Iran nuclear deal in time before a press conference. And with Joe Biden, what I learned there is that he really likes to stay connected with people out there in the country, what they're saying, what they're hearing. So really bringing him information and being direct with him, too, about what he's saying and kind of when things he's conveying may not be what he intended. And I tell a really tough story in there about a period of time around the drawdown in Afghanistan, and a tough story that really was personal for him, and how I provided feedback in that case as well.
Well, when you talk about providing feedback, what's so remarkable about you and so singular is here you were a young woman with, very different principles in the Oval Office or on the road with John Kerry, and you were willing to give feedback and tell things that they may not want to hear. You figured out how to do it, which is such a critical part of your book. But you're a woman, you're a mom, and you had the experience of the White House Chief of Staff changing a diaper for you when you had a very busy day at the White House. Tell us about that.
That's right. Well, that speaks to, thank you again, Dennis McDonough, who changed my under one-year-old daughter's diaper. He's now the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, so that tells you a lot about him. But I think what I learned, and I talk about this a lot in the book, Andrea, is that sometimes women, whether you're a mom or you're not a mom, can limit themselves as they're growing up and they're moving up in their career. And I thought that when I told Dennis McDonough, when he called me to ask me if I wanted to be the White House communications director, when I told him I was pregnant, that he would say, good luck with that. He didn't. He said, we'll figure it out. I'm very fortunate, but what I learned from that is that we can't limit ourselves. We have to ask the world for what we need and see if they'll meet it.